Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jack and Joe show, where Jack has hopefully recovered from his trip to Bristol in one of the most typical Sky Bet Championship games I think you'll ever see. Jack, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
You know what? I'm okay. I was slightly ropey last night. When the hangover kind of kicks in later than it should. I was at my nan's for a roast, and suddenly I was like, "Crap, I don't feel good whatsoever." After she offered me a can of Carlsberg, which is fantastic value. But yeah, Joe, how are you anyway?
Very good, yeah. Saturday was a frustrating day. I watched the full game. Obviously, couldn't be at the stadium, sadly. Um, Very quickly, I think we should just say before we even get into the match, what an amazing moment that was with Rhys Porter after the
Mm,
goal went in. And before we get on to any footballing matters, I just wanted to say, from a Fulham fan perspective, but also just from like a human perspective, an amazing moment. Probably one of my favourite since supporting Fulham, just because of how wonderful it was to see that from the team. And for that reason, probably my favourite goal we've scored this season so
mm.
far. From being there, Jack, I mean, I don't know how you were feeling at the point when the goal went in, but to see that live must have been amazing.
I wasn't aware of that happening because
Yeah.
I was probably on the floor somewhere. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but um, what a great touch from not only on Saturday but the whole club inviting
Yes.
him to the training ground. Tim Ream on BBC Breakfast. The whole club putting him up on the website as part of the first team. This is things you just love to see.
Yeah.
Online abuse is not tolerated whatsoever, and to target someone with cerebral palsy, it's just not nice. It's
Yeah.
wrong, and Ian Holloway put it brilliantly on on EFL on Quest. Just get lost, honestly. No time for that. But the club really stepped up and was fantastic. Tim Ream, the whole player, everyone's fantastic, and you know, unfortunately, we couldn't get the result for Rhys, but I hope he had a great day, and I hope he's had an amazing week, and I hope that the people who have said these ridiculously horrible things to him can really be embarrassed and look themselves in the mirror and go, "Well, I need to grow up now," because you do need to grow up. And Joe, let's get on to the football.
Yeah.
This was a game we've seen before, and we
Yeah.
saw it on the 7th of March 2020 when Fulham played Bristol City and drew 1-1. Um, just very frustrating, Joe.
So frustrating. So similar to the Middlesbrough game, first game of the season as well.
Mm,
I'm pretty sure Bristol City equalised in the same minute that Mark Boller scored first day of the season, 78th,
mm,
whatever it was. It's one of those where we were the better team throughout. It was quite a dull first half, but once we got going in the second half, we really should have scored at least one more, really killed off the game. And when we weren't taking those chances, you just thought this is only going to go one way. And then, would you look at that? They score a goal which wasn't as undeserved as Middlesbrough's, I would say. It's one of those
mm,
goals where it was coming. I'd say for a 5-10 minute spell, they started adding on some pressure. Gazaniga made a few decent stops, but one thing that shouldn't be ignored is that the goal shouldn't have stood. It was offside. There was about four players offside, and it wasn't. It wasn't a close call. It wasn't one where the VAR lines would come out. It's one that the linesman should see. It came from a corner initially, so the linesman should be in a decent position. And it's just unacceptable officiating. But even when conceding that, we can only blame ourselves. We should have killed the game off. And we had so many chances. I mean, Mitrovic could have scored three and added on time at the end of the game. So one of those days, but that's two lots that I've said one of those days in a row now with the Reading game and with this game. We should have taken 6 points. We've only taken one. And we really, really need to get the 3 points on Wednesday night against Swansea.
yeah, we'll come on to Swansea at the end. I've just got to say about the goal. I'm not going to sit here and be like, we should have defended that better. Because if you think about it, the initial shot comes in and Paulo Gazaniga makes a miraculous save. It's a fantastic save, strong arm. And it falls to Casey Palmer. And it's at a really weird EFL Sky Bet angle. and he still manages to put it in the net. And I don't think that I can be like, oh, Ream or whoever or Tosin or Harrison Reed, they should be closer to the man because he's standing in that offside position. The linesman then should have the knowledge and the authority to look across the line and go, that is offside, no goal, 1-0 Fulham. So for there, I can't. And what slightly annoys me, but even you can't really help this, is when the ball goes in, none of the players really appeal for offside. They all look across the linesman, but they normally you put your hand up, you go, that's offside. Whether that played into the mindset of the linesman thinking, oh, that's not offside, I don't know. But you can't start nitpicking at the players' characteristics and reactions after the ball goes in the net. It's a good finish, but it shouldn't have counted. And it's just one of those Sky Bet EFL things that always happens. And I'm sure in the next couple of games, we will get a decision that might not necessarily lead to a goal, but it could be some sort of penalty or a red card. It will go our way because that's just how it works. I'm convinced. I've banged the drum for years. That is how it works, and you'll get something go your way. Maybe it'll be in 3 games' time or 4 games' time. You know, for example, West Ham have a penalty last weekend. Mark Noble misses last minute of the game. And you're thinking, oh, was it a harsh penalty? No, it's a penalty. Manchester United get a penalty in the last minute, then week after and miss, and still lost to the team of which they lost last week in the Carabao Cup. It happens. This is football. This is the Championship. It just happens. So I'm sorry to go on for a while there, Joe. What about Alexander Mitrovic? And actually, I want to praise Marco Silva because it's the first time in a very long time where it hasn't been going well in the first half, and we've changed it up at half time, and that's made a direct difference. The last time I can remember that happening was 2017 when we brought on Abu Kamara at Hull away, and he scored a brace to make it 2-2 from 2-0 down. But what did you think of Silva's?
It was a great double change because in the first half I thought our midfield looked a bit disjointed. Don't think Chalobah was at his best, or Onoma, in fact, and both got taken off. And I thought that Reed added a lot more balance to the midfield, and I thought that Cabano looked like a real live wire on that left hand side. And obviously, he ended up creating almost single handedly that first goal. Great header back across from Wilson, but the cross and the work beforehand was all from Cabano. And I thought we looked really dangerous going down the left after Cabano came on. He linked up with Robinson really well on a number of occasions. And I know we'll probably get onto the team we play against Swansea later, but I think that he should really start because I thought he did very well. And there was one chance where he could have done a bit better near the end of the game. I think at 1-0. But it was a good performance from both subs that came on. And if we'd started that team, I think we'd have won the game. Credit to Marco Silva for changing it up when it needed to be, because they went with the exact team I think that we would have played in terms of the midfield. We put Chalobah back in there. We said Onoma slightly further forward, and it just didn't quite work. And there's no harm in that. We tried it. It didn't work. We changed it quickly. And that team could and should have won us the game. So credit to Marco Silva for changing it when it went wrong. He wasn't happy with what he saw, and the second half performance was far better.
It was, and I'm sure the XG must be quite high for Fulham in expected goals, especially in that second half. The goal was good ball from Cabano to pick out Harry Wilson, nice header across, and Mitrovic will never miss that. It's a good striker's goal, and I have to say, Mitrovic, I know he's a fan's favourite. I know he's loved, but there were some chances there that he maybe could have tucked away, especially in the last minute. The headers that looped, or the shot that looped onto the bar, the header that looped onto the bar, like he made those kind of out of nothing. So you got to give credit for him. But when he takes that ball down in the 93rd minute,
that's the one.
He just slashed it, but it was on his wrong foot, and my heart was literally up in my throat when he took that ball down. I was like, if he scores, I'm flying. I'm going absolutely flying. But he didn't. And then I got very frustrated at the fact that we'd again dropped points where we've had the majority of the chances against the team in Bristol City who, yes, defended quite well in parts. Yes, had a couple of threats going forward. But I just don't think they're anything special this season. I don't see them going up, don't see them going down.
No, it's a really frustrating game, and one where we should have looked to get 3 points. And what makes it even more frustrating is I watched the highlights of other games on Quest, and you see West Brom picking up 3 points on Friday night when, to be honest, they were absolutely crap. You see Bournemouth picking up 3 points when Luton had so many chances, far more than Bristol City had. And this is one thing that links to what you said before, Jack. It does even itself out. I do think in football, eventually you get what you deserve. And in these past 2 games, we've dominated both. We've had enough chances to win both games comfortably, and it hasn't quite worked out. And soon, I really think we're going to tonk someone. Like, I think we're going to beat someone 4 or 5-0 because the amount of chances we have and the amount of quality we have, it has to work out at some point. And, we're 4 points off top. We've only played 9 games. I think we'll get there. I'd be far more concerned at this stage of the season if we weren't playing well, if we weren't creating the chances. We're creating so much. We're not conceding many chances. And the goal that we conceded shouldn't have stood. So I'm not worried, but we need to back this up with 3 points now on Wednesday. And I really think it's a game where anything but a win won't do. And obviously after that, we've got a huge game, which we probably weren't expecting to be a huge game, against Coventry, who have taken 15 points from 15 at home.
They are something else. I was like, they're playing Peterborough on a Friday night. We'll see what happens given Peterborough's result against Birmingham last week. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, 3-0. And I'm thinking, I look at the table, they're second in the league, obviously on Friday night. And look, they are no mugs to be messed with. And I tell you what, we're going to take a load of fans up there. It's going to be fantastic. It's live on Sky. Drinking starts at goodness me, whatever time. It's going to be sensational. Interesting point. I just wanted to talk to you about talking about evening itself out. Remember when we played Birmingham away, and they basically came away thinking they should have got something from the game, and that we probably weren't good value for a 4-1 win. And this is it. There are games where I think Birmingham, we played really well. We created a lot of chances, but we also could have conceded a lot more goals if it wasn't for Gazaniga's good saves and a bit of poor finishing and poor decision making from Birmingham in the final third. And Fulham were just ruthless going forward. So, every game we're creating a bucket load of chances, and that is down to the personnel we have and the squad depth we have. Even against Leeds, I thought we were really good value. So there's no need to panic. Losing to Reading was very frustrating, but no need to panic because I think we were still good value. Same with Saturday. It's just very frustrating when you consistently now, on a back of 3 out of the last 4 games, have dropped points when you've been decent. I think Blackpool's our worst performance of the season, and I think it probably will be our worst performance of the season for quite some time. Hopefully, touch the wood. I was just going to ask you: have you seen the interview with Scott Parker on TalkSport?
I have seen the short video that they tweeted. I haven't seen the full thing.
No, right.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Maybe something we can sink our teeth into during the international break, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. It's sort of hinting that it was more mutual than maybe the reports were saying. Not sure if I buy that personally. It's very easy saying that now, but he was under contract. And I know that the negotiations were long in releasing him because of compensation and everything, but definitely an interesting one. And I've got to say, I'm so excited for the Fulham Bournemouth games. I think that looks to be really interesting. Multiple storylines. The return of Scott Parker, 2 teams near the top of the table. The return of Matt Wells, we mustn't forget, who a few people will know is not my favourite man in the world. It's going to be really interesting. But one thing I will say about Bournemouth, which does interest me, is I've seen their highlights, and I appreciate I haven't seen the full games other than the Bournemouth QPR game over their last 4. So they've beaten Barnsley, they beat QPR, they beat Cardiff away, and they beat Luton on Saturday. Our last 4 performances, Blackpool was poor, but the rest of them far better than what I've seen from Bournemouth in terms of these are games where, Barnsley, they beat them comfortably, fine. But it was the level of performance that we put in on Saturday. It's just we didn't get the rewards. Luton looked quite an even game. Adebayo, old Fulham boy, missed an open goal in one of the first few minutes. Then Mark Travers made a mistake, made a few great saves. Could have easily drawn or lost that game. QPR, they were poor, in my opinion, and should have lost the game or at least drawn it. A few great chances for QPR to equalise. So, I would rather be having. I'd obviously rather have their points tally, but I would rather have our performances that I've seen so far. So I do think we will start to get the rewards because from what I've seen on the pitch, we're the best team in the league, and I still do maintain that.
Yeah, I based on our performances, I know it's been frustrating. I know we don't quite. I mean, we were saying it last season. We don't have the points to back it up.
Yeah,
I suppose we do have the points to sort of back it up, but maybe not the goals at the moment. And people are saying QPR are a good team. They've lost three in a row.
yeah,
I mean, yes, they can be a good team and they can score goals, but if you can't hold on to leads like they didn't do against West Brom, Bristol City, Bournemouth, well,
yeah,
they didn't have the lead against Bournemouth, but even so, I mean, it's been a fascinating season, and with Coventry, who we might not be doing we'd probably not be doing a video on Thursday after the Swansea game, so we can sort of talk about them,
yeah,
but obviously we have the Swansea game first. And look, a team with Russell Martin, who came in right at the beginning of the season, and they've got off to a shocking start this
yeah,
campaign. They won at the weekend over Huddersfield by 1-0. They play a very, very possession-based style of football, like he did at MK Dons in League One last season. What do you expect from this Swansea team? Because I can't make heads or tails out of them right now. I don't know where they are. I feel like they're in transition because of the new manager, and it could take them a couple of years or maybe a season or so to build up to playoff contention again. They've lost a lot of players. They kept Matt Grimes, and I'm going to stop talking now because
no.
it's your turn.
I think they're a team that are going to stick to their philosophy, and that
Mm,
is very much centered around possession football and playing out the back. And I
mm.
really think that could play into our hands. If you watch the highlights from the first game of the season, and I know it's unfair because Russell
Blackburn.
Martin had just taken over, the amount of chances Blackburn had, even some of the goals they scored, all came from pressing the defenders when they were trying to play out the back. Because currently he doesn't have a squad that is built for this, and they're getting better. Their performances have been better. They won against Huddersfield the other day, who've been flying high, and they should have probably won more than 1-0. And Pirro up front, who's only, I think, 19 or 20 years old, looks very good so far. I think he's scored 6 for them in all competitions already in only 9 games. So very good record, and he's probably the danger man. But what I will say is they're there to be got at. They're a bit like us when Slav first took over, where he's trying to get you to play the way he wants, but he doesn't have the personnel to do it. And that
Mm,
means that some games, obviously, they're going to go out and it's going to click and it's going to work brilliantly. There's going to be some games like that Blackburn game where mistake after mistake happens, but you've still got to play the same way. And I remember us conceding so many goals in the early Slav days from playing out the back when we weren't good enough to. So
mm.
obviously they've got a good team. I'm not saying they're not good enough. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be mid-table. But it is a transition year, as you say. And I think it's a year where we should be looking to get a home win over them, and we should be looking to try and get it quite comfortably. We should be going and trying to score a few goals because I do think they can hurt us going forward. I think they've got some decent attacking players, but I do think this is a defence that we can 100% score some goals against.
We've got some good memories when we played Swansea at home, especially last time. Mitrovic with the last-minute winner
Yeah,
after a missed penalty in like the 88th minute. It was really good scenes, and it was a couple of games before lockdown as well. So, not something. It was just great. It was honestly fantastic. Let's get your team for Wednesday night live on Sky if you can't be there. I will say something that Caviera coming on as our third sub on Saturday really tipped me over the edge when we had Rodrigo Muniz.
yeah.
But I just thought he was just his wasteful self. So what's your team against Swansea?
So the team that I play is quite similar to the one that was in the second half of Saturday's game. So the changes that I would make, rather than listing the whole team, is I would
Mm,
bring Reed in for Chalabar.
okay,
So I'd leave Onoma in,
okay.
but I would change Bobby Reed for Cabano for this one. I think Bobby's been good. I think he's been fine. A little bit wasteful at times, and I just thought Cabano did so well when he came on Saturday that he deserves a start. So the rest of the team I would leave as it was, but 2 changes: Reed and Cabano in from the start.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think Harrison Reed. I think when he starts, we play really well.
Yeah,
And because he came on against Blackpool, we were chasing the game. He came on against Bristol, and we still had some sort of element of control because it was level, and he actually, did very very well in the midfield. Um, One change I'd probably make from that is I would genuinely give Alfie Mawson a run out, and I'm talking not a
okay,
run out. I'd start him.
Yeah,
I think Tosin is great. I'd probably keep him in. I love Tim Ream to bits. I mean, I just think that we kind of need to freshen it up at the back. I think Dennis Adoy as well perhaps could come out for Cyrus
yeah,
Christie. Um, I just think I'm just so upset that Kenny Tete is injured.
me
I
too.
genuinely
Yeah,
feel like if Kenny Tete's not injured, we're top of the league right now. And that's
yeah,
not, and like even Fabio Carvalho, it's so frustrating. I miss him so much in this team. It's unbelievable how much of a difference he makes on that half turn. He's
yeah,
driving into space. If he's got no one around him and he's receiving the ball on the half turn and driving and getting the wingers behind him and Mitrovic as well pulling off him, just it's so fluid. It's so beautiful to watch, and hopefully we have him back for Coventry on Saturday, and then obviously after the international break. So there's lots to look forward to, and if we're in the top six going into that international break from the next two games, happy days.
yeah.
And yeah, so John Mikel Seri, of course, starts, I think. So yeah, what about a score prediction then for Wednesday night?
Yeah, tough one. I do think that I'm a bit nervous about Hero up front,
Mm,
and a bit nervous about Obafemi as well, who I don't think scored for them, but just because we were linked, and I remember his Carabao Cup goal against us, that
mm,
little tap in when we had Kevin McDonald at centre back.
mm.
Very much well done. He's 13 vibes with that goal. Yeah, I'm going to go for 3-1 Fulham. I think that we're owed a few goals based on our performances. I do think they might score against us, but I think we should be good enough to get through this one unscathed in terms of points. But I am a bit nervous about it because the last few games, I was confident going into Reading, I was confident going into Bristol City and Blackpool, of course. So I'm definitely not going into this with any illusions that, oh, yeah, we'll turn up and we'll win. We're going to have to work for it. But I think that if we play like we did on Saturday, we should get what we deserve.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think a win is coming. I think the performances merit 3 points. And in the side of Swansea, like you said, it's either going to go two ways. We're going to pick them off, and we're going to dominate, and we're going to capitalize on their mistakes, or we're going to get a really tough battle where both teams want to have the ball. It's going to be quite open,
Yeah.
and there could be some goals. But I'm actually going to stick with Fulham and go with 2-0 Fulham.
Okay.
But I do think Swansea will have their chances. They will probably have a lot of chances. So I'm nervous, but hopefully we can come through it and then head up to Coventry on the back of 3 points. Anything else you want to touch on before we call it a day?
I don't think so. I think this is a big week before the international break. Well, hopefully we can get Carvalho rested up and back. Kenny Tete sounds like it's a bit longer, but what would be really good for me, I think, is if we could start to nail down our midfield, because I feel like it's not helping that every game we're changing it, and a lot of that's been due to injuries or poor performances or both. It would be great to nail it down, because first few games of the season, what was great was we knew it was Seri and Onuma with Carvalho just in front of them, and it worked beautifully. So it'd be great to get that balance back and really start getting the results we deserve again, because I do think that the performances haven't particularly dropped off. I don't think they've been as good as they were. For example, the Stoke game was fabulous. And obviously Huddersfield and Millwall were great. I think we'll do okay. And I think that this is an important week, and we really just need to get back close to or in that top two by the end of this 3-game week.
Yeah. Obviously, the point you make on midfield to have a settled three, it's all well and good saying that, but also because of the depth we have in midfield, it's almost like, oh, we need to sort of chop and change, because maybe certain players will play against certain opposition. You need someone like Harrison Reed to block off counters and to actually Harrison Reed on Wednesday night would probably be an ideal person to sit in the midfield or even in front of the back four. But I think Seri is a mainstay and he's a starter, and I think that Seri could dictate any game in the Sky Bet Championship. But Joe, despite a very frustrating result on Saturday, I feel like we've had quite a cheerful 25 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important not to get too down, because you're going to draw games. There is nothing more Sky Bet Championship than a 1-1 draw, sadly. It's going to happen, and we're going to have a few more this season. So we might as well be happy that we at least saw a good performance, saw a lovely moment with Rhys Porter, another Mitrovic goal, and, we didn't lose, and on to the next one.
Yeah, there's only 2 losses so far this season. I have to say I did quite lose my head at full time just because of the manner of which how we didn't score a second goal, and their goal being offside just did not help, and then Brentford scoring buckets against Liverpool just did not help the cause as well. But look, we're not in a perilous position. You could be someone like Derby County or Reading, who have something on the horizon to dread. The only worry for Fulham is if we don't go up. That's a real worry. That's a real Stephen Arthur worry. But Joe, let's wrap it up because we've been banging on. We've been banging on. So actually, give a score prediction for Coventry as well. You might as well.
Oh yeah, might as well. I don't think we'll speak before then. So that's a tougher one, and it's a tougher game. And I'm a bit more on the fence about this one. But they've won all their games at home. Someone's got to beat them, and like, with no disrespect to Coventry, we should remember the difference in the squads that we have. And I know that football's not played on paper. Gyökeres scoring so many goals for them. O'Hare is a player I'm a massive fan of. Hamer looks good as well. But I think we'll go there. We'll take a big following. And on Sky, live on the cameras, I hope we put on a show. And I think we'll beat them 2-1. I think it'll be a close game. But especially if we win on Wednesday night, I think that could give us the confidence to go on and put in a bit of a statement win and just say, look, we're the team that is going to get top 2.
Hopefully. I genuinely feel like we can go up there and just... I have a huge amount of respect for what Coventry have done so far this season. But at some point, something's got to give. And I genuinely think, like, with the personnel we've got in our team, we could be that team that just kind of gives them okay, this is the sort of opposition we're up against. I know it sounds a little bit arrogant, but I genuinely feel like we can go up there and win 3-0.
Wow.
And just play them off a park. But you never know. There's a whole round of fixtures in the midweek. We'll see what happens. We've been banging on for a while. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please join us again on Monday when we review the Coventry game and I suppose look back on Swansea as well. International break to come, so hopefully a big, nice couple of videos in that break. Joe, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure, Jack. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we will go again on Wednesday night. Come on, Fulham. You want.